Me and Soon are over here jamming. It's fine.
I'm trying to hurt you. Hold on.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our evening show at 8 p.m. Eastern Time because you know that is prime time. And we're the Primetime Patriots. So here we are. Hello. All right. Here's 3 things you have to do. Number 1, hit the like button. Number 2, hit the heart button. Number 3, share this live. We got to break the algorithms, y'all. Get everybody
White
on
power.
here. Let's go.
Yeah.
White power.
Oh, okay. That's what I do, okay? Let us know where you're tuning in from. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. All right, we got Sally's here from North Carolina, Alabama, Northwest Indiana. Thank you, Janet, for sharing. Hey, Vance. Brought your favorite dude on tonight.
Hey, y'all. Hey, Vance. Got Janet.
Everybody.
San
Then
Diego.
rack those viewerships up. Let's go.
Denise says, unfortunately, New Jersey.
Christine is watching from Florida. Everybody knows you already, Christine.
Red state of Kansas. That's our home state.
Ooh,
Much love
North
to our
Carolina
Kansas
is deep
people.
in here.
Come on.
Nice.
Oh, Jonathan's here. We know it's going to be a good night. Jonathan's here.
That's my homie, man.
Get up in them comments and make people upset, Jonathan. That's what we hired you for.
For real.
He'll call them out.
Trigger him. If I don't do it, you'll do
Yeah.
it for me.
That's right. What's up, everybody? So tonight we're talking about anti-racism being the left's new religion. So we know how the left functions, right? So they do these things where they get all involved in their feels, and then they fire back at us, telling us that we don't understand why they feel the way they feel, and we don't know the information about it, so we simply cannot understand. So Lucas, I would love for you to start by explaining exactly what it is that we don't understand about anti-racism.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, let me first tell you a story. Quick story, but you guys might enjoy this. So,
Oh boy.
I graduated from Washburn Law School, and in 2007, so I graduated in 2008. In 2007, I took a humanities diversity in the law class, something like that, right? And we had just gotten a new dean of diversity, cultural
Diversity
studies,
and inclusion and stuff.
some kind of something. And that is when I had my first, I had heard very, very briefly about anti-racism before that, or some semblance of it. But that's where I got my first real lecture about what anti-racism was. And the way she described it at the time was, imagine a scale of 1 to 10, or let's say 0 to 10. 0 being KKK, straight up white supremacist, actively lynching African Americans, Latinos, anybody you can find. That's a 0. That's pure 100% unadulterated white supremacist.
Okay.
5 on the scale of 0 to 10 is Dr. Martin Luther King's judging people by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. So I did the same thing you did. I'm like, wait, what?
Get out of here.
Okay, so you've got my attention. I'm listening. 10 is actively understanding that white people are inherently racist, that they have inherent privilege as white people, and that it is their job to actively participate in anti-racist initiatives and efforts in order to correct for past injustice and create equitable outcomes. You can imagine what I thought about that. I was in law school and I was a 3L, so I didn't much care what professors thought of me at that point. So I jumped right in.
Was your face like this?
It was something very similar, yes. And I asked a lot of questions. I stayed after class and I asked her more questions, and I dug as deep as I could. And I thought I had to be hearing her wrong. I had to be
Right.
misunderstanding the concept in some way, and I
Can
wasn't.
we pause for 1 second? Because you said this happened in 2007.
Yeah.
Okay. He didn't say 2017. He didn't say 2020. He said 2007. This happened to him in law school. Okay. Now you can go forward.
And really, I think according to some of the leading experts in anti-racism, it actually started sometime around civil rights era, late 60s, early 70s, and then some. But as leftist propaganda typically does, it cycles. It comes around and around and around, and every time it comes around, there's somebody new ready and waiting to jump on the bandwagon and make money off of it.
Right.
So this time around, there's plenty of people out there, but there's nobody who is more popular, I guess, in the current anti-racism teaching than Ibram Kendi. Ibram X Kendi is what his name is. This says he's a #1 New York Times best-selling author, podcaster, contributor at The Atlantic and CBS. I'm sure you can imagine what he writes in those two resources. And he is the Andrew Mellon Professor in the Humanities, Director at Boston University Center for Anti-Racist Research. Anyway, point is,
thing.
he is the leading expert in the United States right now on anti-racist education. He wrote a book. People liked his book. He's made a lot of wild claims, and there's a lot of guilt-ridden white liberals ready to jump on and support him in any way that they can. And he tells you exactly how you can do that. So he says, this is a quote from him about what he says anti-racism is. He says, quote, "No one is born racist or anti-racist. These result from choices we make. Being anti-racist results from a conscious decision to make frequent, consistent, equitable choices daily. These choices require ongoing self-awareness and self-reflection as we move through life. In the absence of making anti-racist choices, we perhaps unconsciously uphold aspects of white supremacy, white dominant culture, and equal institutions and society. Being racist or anti-racist is not about who you are. It's about what you do." End quote. Now there's the rub, right? So at the end of the day, what are we really talking about? We're talking about the big thing in the news is, what is critical race theory? What are they going to be teaching our kids? What are they already teaching our kids? What is Florida, Texas, different Oklahoma and different states? What are they actively standing up against? Because they don't believe, just like you and I talked about earlier, Kaylee, just like many religions will say when they come under criticism, you don't understand us. You don't understand me. You don't understand my religion. They say the same thing. The big thing right now is conservatives and people on the right are being gaslit, or is it gaslighted? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But we are being told that we can't possibly pass legislation against critical race theory because we don't even know what it is. So that's what we're going to tell you about tonight. What is it? Well, at its very core, it's this idea of if you are to sit there and say that you're not racist, then you're racist, period. If you want to judge people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin, you are racist. The only way for you to become anti-racist is to do things. What things? Isn't that the next question you would ask? Well, the things that Ibram Kendi says has to happen for you to become anti-racist is you have to support the following progressive orthodoxies. Closing prisons. Eliminating police. This is directly from Ibram Kendi. Eliminating police and law enforcement. Legalizing marijuana and other illicit drugs. Supporting affirmative action. Reparations. Direct and indirect. So direct would be direct money. Indirect would be free college and eliminating student debt. You guys have heard all these because they're in the news every other day from different people on the left. This is the big one. He wants a constitutional overhaul that would make the first. Listen to this. This is the best part. I couldn't even believe I was reading it. He wants to make the First Amendment subservient to an anti-racist amendment that would be enforced by the openly totalitarian Department of Anti-Racism. The DOA would be comprised of formally trained experts on racism and no political appointees. How they would do that, I couldn't even tell you. The DOA would be responsible for pre-clearing. That's called a prior restraint in legal parlance. All local, state, and federal public policies to ensure that they won't yield racial inequity. Monitor those policies, investigate private racist policies when racial inequity surfaces, and monitor public officials for expression of racist ideas. The DOA would be empowered with disciplinary tools to wield over and against policymakers and public officials who do not voluntarily change their racist policy ideas. Now, I know how kooky it sounds, right? But I'm telling you,
I just want to hear what
2 years ago, reparations sounded kooky. And now we're on the verge. Their place is already offering them. Go ahead, Sue.
I know.
What do you think?
You're muted.
I'm sorry.
She was so thrown.
I know.
I guess I
That
would
exploded.
pose a question to them. What makes you an expert in this area? Why do you know so much about it? Why? So all Black people do drugs. All Black people are broke. All Black folks go to jail. And we need these pieces of legislation passed for, 48% of the population? Because if you look at the Black population, it's an equal split. Half of us are doing extremely well, and a portion of us aren't. I don't understand. Stuff like this is just like you're showing how racist you are.
Yeah.
Thank you
Right?
for thinking of me. Thank you. I'm glad this is what you think of Black people, and that this is going to help us. Right.
Well,
Affirmative action has done so well. You just took the words out of my mouth. This explains why kids are so stupid. This explains why my 18-year-old sister thinks that racism is the biggest thing happening in America.
Suni,
It's
people
not.
literally worship this dude. Like they think he is the bee's knees.
He's had
He's
TED
racist.
Talks. He's
Call
had
him
TED
out.
Talks. He's had he's on every Good Morning America, Good Night Vietnam, I don't know, whatever channels and TV shows
I
are
challenge
out
him
there.
to a talk right now.
He's on all of them.
I want to
There's-
talk to you. I want to talk to every liberal who thinks that critical race theory and anti-racism is how you fix what's happening in the Black community. Why don't you talk to some Black people instead of talking to all your white friends around you that have probably never spent an iota of time around us to even know what
Yes.
exactly we want? Just please spend some time with us. All these politicians, go to the hood. They won't because they're scared.
No, they won't. Mm-mm. I'm gonna post his name that way you guys can see it. I want to make sure.
Can I
spell
show
it
this
right.
really quick? Because you
Yeah.
brought up
Yeah.
the ranking system, and there is another one that we talked about. I showed this to Kaylee. This is another system they have to rate the white identities. Like, what the heck? Yeah. Kaylee's a white traitor, by the way.
I am. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I can't win, you guys.
I don't know, man. It feels like, and it doesn't feel like, this is stupidity at its finest. And I wish more people would stand against it. Like I really wish more Black people would stand up and speak up for themselves and say, I'm not a victim. I don't need you to speak for me. You know, I've been Black 30 years in America, and I have never experienced racism, if that's what you want to call it, until I came out as conservative.
Yeah.
When I didn't care and I felt like a victim, nobody bothered me.
And who bothers you the most now that you say you're conservative?
White male liberals, mainly, and white. I mean, and black liberal
Liberals.
males. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's funny you say, Suni, that he clearly doesn't communicate very well with many African Americans. He actually, I mean, Kendi. So I first actually heard him speak in a TED talk that he gave at the beginning of um, the pandemic, and I think he gave it because he saw that it was going to be an opportunity for him to gain popularity during the pandemic. But he's very open. That's one thing I will give him credit for, is he's very open about how he feels. He says while many anti-racists dance awkwardly around the fact that affirmative action is a racially discriminatory policy, Kendi says that they say that because they're too afraid to admit that racial discrimination is not inherently racist. The defining question is whether the discrimination is creating equity or inequity. If discrimination is creating equity, then it's anti-racist. If discrimination is creating inequity, then it's racist. So again, he doesn't care whether people are treated differently or not. What he cares about is trying to create, or trying to sound like he wants to create, equitable outcomes for everyone. All it is it's a different spin on leftist populism.
Yeah.
So listen, we primetime patriots, the folks that come on these shows and speak to people, and most of the people that tune into you guys and really watch all of us talk, we're not the George Will type conservatives. Most of you haven't heard of Coleman Hughes or John McWhorter or some of these people who are out there as intellectual conservatives for a reason. That's not our play. That's not where we sit in the grand scheme of politics. We're more in that. That's why I call myself an American populist. We're more in the populist side of the right, where it's helping the most people that we can be successful by getting government out of their way. We believe in personal accountability. We believe that if the government will leave Kaylee and Suni alone, they will be able to make something of themselves. They don't need to take from our neighbor in order for you to be successful. And liberal populism is the exact opposite. It's saying, Kaylee, you and Suni can't make it on your own. You're disadvantaged. If you're left to your own devices, your kids aren't going to be any better off than you are. So in order to try to make that better, we're going to take from your rich neighbor, give it to you, because we do believe in giving a man a fish instead of teaching him how to fish.
Right.
Period. And they've been doing it since the 60s. When Johnson sold the great war on poverty to all of us, he basically said as much. He said, African Americans will never get out of poverty unless and until we have some kind of social program to help them. The problem is, from the 1940s until the 1960s, they were on the climb. I mean, Larry Elder has done lots of speeches and talks about how all of the statistical analysis he's done from the 1940 basically until 1960, the African American population as a whole was doing much better than they've done since.
Yes, we were set to outpace them in every category. Category.
And he says what even John F. Kennedy said. What they need is to be left alone so that they can do it. They need systematic fairness in education. They need equality under the law. We need to get rid of separate but equal, which we did under Brown v. Board of Education. If we do these things to change the systematic nature of the racism in the United States and then let them go, they'll be successful. The same way I would expect Kaylee to be successful. And instead, we did this nonsense Great Society plan under Johnson, and we've done light versions of it ever since, and all it's done is manage to throw the soft bigotry of low expectations at an entire community and hold a big portion of them down. I think that the division and the disparity between successful African Americans and unsuccessful African Americans is probably wider, simply because a group of that population, and it's probably the same kind of disparity with white people, but I guarantee you it's there for African Americans. Folks that want to depend on the government have the hardest time coming up out of poverty. And then folks like SUNY, who would rather have the personal accountability and have the government leave them the hell alone, have the ability to be successful, and they are.
Yeah. I mean, the word equity literally translates to freedom from bias and favoritism. You're favoring one. You're not even favoring them. You're stunting growth.
Yeah.
One of the big reasons that we haven't progressed in the Black community is because all we have are government programs. There is no effort to fix the schooling. There is like pro school choice. I remember speaking to of course she's a Black liberal, and she's like, no, they should be forced to go to the crap schools, and we should just put money into those schools. Why would we put money somewhere else? Well, because the teachers aren't teaching. The environment is terrible. There's violence. I went to an all-Black school, and I can tell you I was ready to leave.
I
was ready to leave. So it's progressive programs that keep the Black community where it is. And yes, of course, we do have some personal accountability in that because it's all a choice. But when you're taught that this is what you do, just like I was taught, you need help, go to the government. That's what they're there for. That's your fallback. Anything else? Oh, that's racist. Oh, you want me to work hard? Oh, that's racist. Oh, you want me to be smart? You want me to go to school and get A's? I can't. That's racist. That's literally what people are saying now.
So
welcome to America.
I just want to reiterate to the folks that are listening to this and wondering, why would we spend time ranting about this? It's because this is the kind of thinking that has to be dismissed out of hand. So if you're out there wondering, why are we talking about critical race theory in Oklahoma? Are they really teaching that in the schools? Whether they are or not yet, they will be. Trust me. The left never lets an opportunity like this pass. If they can couch it in some kind of educational theory-based pile of nonsense, they'll do it. Look at the 1619 Project and all of the other things that they've tried to do. They've made this anti-racism thing sound like something virtuous in order to be able to sell it to our educational system and be able to sell it to our kids.
Here's the thing. They're not dumb. Okay. Most of us know that if it is something that affects children, it's easier to get parents to buy in because we want what's best for our children. And if they're uneducated and they don't have a worldview or a bigger picture view, they're going to buy in because they want what's best for their children. If they're sitting over here thinking, oh, well, this is going to be what's best for my children, it's just the same as selling merchandise or toys. Get into that business. People buy stuff for their kids. It just is what it is. The problem is they have no idea what they're allowing for their children. And then they get to college and they may have been raised in a conservative home and they go away for 4 years and they come back a completely different person that their parents can't even recognize because of the amount of indoctrination that happens while they're in college. I know personally.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's sick.
It won't change. Honestly, it won't change until more Negro folks stand up. It absolutely won't change. It won't. More. It needs to be way more than the average conservative that's not even like well put together, but I can articulate myself, better than a lot of people in my family. They can't speak like this. Those people need to stand up and say, I want opportunity. I don't want any more of your programs. You need to go to your state legislators. Bro, what are you doing? My hometown it's disgusting, man. We went from being one of the top cities to put out really good caliber of athletes, 3 different high schools, 3 different middle schools, to one high school for everybody in the city, one middle school for everybody in the city. And our high schools are attached to police precincts, bookings. Our city is destroyed and has been liberal ran since my existence and probably my mom's. There's no progression. There's no life there. There's nothing there. It's Erie, Pennsylvania is the most depressing place I've ever visited. And I haven't been back probably in about 8-9 years. I just can't go back.
Sad.
It's terrible.
It's too bad, and the reality is there's tons of Erie, Pennsylvanias all across the country.
Oh yeah.
It didn't have to be that way. It's worse than unfortunate. I think it's purposeful. The folks on the left depend on a permanent underclass to keep them in power, and we just keep on doing it. And Suni, what you said about there's a bunch of different people who need to have the guts to stand up. They need to be able to grow in that strength and wisdom. Coleman Hughes is what's termed a black conservative, which has become a pejorative in the media. Like, you say black conservative and they think Candace Owens, Larry Elder, and they want to shut you off, shut you down. And there's plenty of very intelligent, well-educated black conservatives out there saying, I'll get up and say these things, and nobody wants to say anything to me directly. But I still have people come up to me after I get done speaking, and they're like, I totally agree with you, but I can't tell anybody that. I can't, in my circle of friends, if they think I'm even remotely conservative, I would get run out of town. And I'm like,
I seriously get that.
Who's doing the lynching now? Isn't that intellectual lynching? Isn't that exactly what it is? If you're keeping black people from seeing the failures of the liberal cities, the Democrat-run cities, by threatening to disenfranchise them further among their support groups and support systems, if they dare question it, that's the same thing. In fact, I would say it's worse. It's definitely more virulent. It's more powerful, because so many people literally refuse to say anything. They won't even put a like on a comment on Facebook because they're terrified people that they know would see it.
Yep. When you were told you
Lucas,
have no opportunity,
you could relate to this comment.
It transcends
you weren't told
race
that you
barriers,
had no
man.
opportunity in life, but you did grow up in basically a single parent home. You helped raise your sister because your mom had to work all the time. You knew how to cook dinner at the age of 5 and still made something of yourself, right?
Yeah. And so did my mom. I mean, I remember seeing the first paycheck I saw of my mom's was I was probably 9 years old. Is right around 1990. And she was making somewhere between $600 and $800 every 2 weeks. And that was our only income in our family. I mean, my stepdad had income as well. It was more limited. He liked to work he liked to work in the margins, we'll say. And a lot of people do that to make ends meet. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, I know that, like, I didn't get a new bed unless mom got a new credit card. And my mom would get a new credit card, and the first thing she would go do is buy household essentials. Yeah. So I know how hard it is to live in that kind of environment. I literally have lived in trailer parks. I grew up in a double wide trailer, and that was an upgrade for us. And that's fine. But my mom never stopped trying. She never stopped working. She continued to better herself through education, even when it was impossible, even when it was hard, even when it hurt. She worked herself till she could make things better, so she could make things better for me. And I took that lead, right? I mean, that's what people should be teaching their kids. You can make something better of yourself and better your station in life. And it doesn't matter what color your skin is, because that same story can be told for every different race of individual out there. Absolutely. And I even hate saying that, because I feel like the fact that we focus on racial division or difference drives me crazy anyway, because I feel like we're all part of a human race.
We're all American.
We're American. And the only separation lines I ever really see anymore are believers and unbelievers. and liberals and conservatives.
Yes.
Because it seems
Me
like it always
too.
comes right back to those things, doesn't it? I can't think of
Yes.
a situation where it doesn't.
And that's
Yeah,
true.
it's definitely not skin color, race for me. It's like you believe in Jesus or you don't.
Or
You're a
you
liberal.
don't.
You're a conservative. That's
Yeah,
it.
there's only good and evil.
That's
I was
right.
like, I'm sitting here thinking about my upbringing. I can't say that my mom ever sat me down and said white people are racist. But what they did do, a lot of they don't believe in the Constitution. They don't think it applies to them. They don't believe in the national anthem. It doesn't apply to them. They don't even believe that America's our land. Those are the things that I grew up hearing. I grew up hearing stories in the Bible of blacks were the original Jews, and God's going to come back and deal with the white people, and they're going to be subservient to us in heaven. Like, these are the things I heard growing up. I never like subscribed to it. I never said, okay, this is going to happen. I just had a thought in my head. White people don't necessarily like me. But a lot of us are coming from those generations. Like, my mom was born 3 years after the civil rights era.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a way, she experienced that
Oh, yeah.
racism, and it's like seared in her brain. My mom is 53, 54. She had a conversation with me. She's like, guess what? I'm like, what? She said, this white lady asked me a question, and I was just like, why is it any of your business? I said, well, what did she ask you? Was I clocking out? And I was like, so are you clocking out? She's like, yeah, but it's not her business. And I'm like, Mom, how do you not know she's just trying to have conversation with you? And she's like, nah, nope. White women don't like black women, but I'm just like, what
That is
world are you
so sad
functioning
to
in?
me.
It is.
Like the fact that you don't think the Constitution applies to you, that the
No.
national anthem doesn't blanket over you. Yes, it does, sweetheart. You're an American. It is for you. I don't care what color you are.
That's the mind frame of a lot of the older generation, and they spilled it down to us, and it's just never stopped. I call it generational curses because it doesn't stop. This is 2 generations, my generation and my mom's, of this nonsense.
I went to Neosho County Community College in Chanute, Kansas for a year. And we did a roundtable discussion for there was some civil rights anniversary one year, and we did a big roundtable. And at one of the roundtables, and I happened to be leading that table, we had the first African-American mayor in the state of Kansas, who was actually the mayor of Chanute, Kansas. It's a town of about 10,000 people. I don't remember his name offhand, but I'll never forget what he said. He said he listened to everybody's opinions and everybody's thoughts about what it would take to create a racially just world in America, and on and on and on. And he said at the end, I really appreciate you kids. And he was older, I'd say probably early to mid 70s. He marched with Dr. Martin Luther King, and he was definitely a part of the struggle all the way through the civil rights era. But he definitely also was not a modern liberal. He was not a leftist. He had some opinions. He was very clearly a Christian man, and he believed in personal accountability. And he said, and I'll never forget, this will never change in the United States until about 3 generations die. My generation and the one before me and the one right after me has to die, black and white, before anything is ever going to change. I think about that every time I read this stuff with the anti-racism, because it's like, how the devil tries to hold on to the last little bit. If you're struggling with something, if you're struggling with addiction, he will find a way for an old magazine with somebody with a cigarette hanging out of their mouth to cross your path just when you think you've gotten it beat, and it'll just give you that minute of him trying to hook you. That's what he does. And I feel that way when I see this anti-racism nonsense and the critical race theory garbage and everything else they're trying to throw at our kids now. It's like their last ditch effort to make this to get a hold of the newest generation to just perpetuate this madness. And you said it, Suni. I totally 100% agree. It's going to take them aging out of the system before we really see some major improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we have to find these people, these Ibram Kendi folks, and we have to tell them, no, absolutely not going to happen. I'm not interested in your nonsense. Take it and peddle it to your little friends. And we have to marginalize people with ideas like that, not because he's black and not because his name is Kendi, but because his ideas are garbage. They are poison. They will poison our country. They'll poison our society, and we cannot let that continue.
They're outdated.
Very.
They're outdated. They're not a part of reality. I tell my mom gets pissed off. I'm like, you're not functioning in reality. You don't function in the same country I function in. You know, my mother-in-law is white, and they actually taught me everything that I spit out to you today. The fact that I'm even seriously a Christian now. I never got those morals from my parents. I never got those morals from my family. I got it from a white lady.
White people hate you though, Suni. Don't forget.
I love them so much. That's why I talk about them all the time, because they're responsible for my political awakening. Like, they really are. I had to like sit back and be like, why don't I like them? And I never had a valid reason as to why. I just didn't like them. It's crazy.
You started with the question that matters. Why?
Yeah.
I wish everybody listening, all you out there in Al Gore's internet, please hear me. There's no more important thing you're ever going to do than to sit down and say why. Why anything? And just keep asking why like a 2-year-old until you get to an answer. In manufacturing, there's actually that's a root cause analysis tool. It's called the 5 Why or 5 Whys. And it's a tool where you just sit down and you say, here's the problem. Why? And you give another answer and you say why, and you say why till you get to the actual root cause. And I was a lawyer when I got into manufacturing, and I had never thought to myself, it takes several layers of asking why before you really get to a root cause on a problem.
And now he uses that on all of us at home. It's great.
All the time, constantly, nonstop. But I would encourage everybody to figure that out, to really sit down and ask yourself why. Why do I believe the things I believe? Why am I focused on what I'm focused on? That's always a good question. There's people right now focusing on whether or not Donald Trump is going to be, quote, reinstated in August. And, you know, it's when people say, why are we doing these audits, for example? Why are we doing the audit in Maricopa County? Why are we talking about audits in Georgia and anywhere else that we're actively pursuing the idea? Is the why so that we can get Donald Trump back in the White House in August? I don't think so.
I feel like the why is so that we can figure out how to overcome what happened to us this last election cycle.
Exactly. The why is to figure out why in the middle of a pandemic, we allowed all of the states to just toss their rules aside and do whatever they wanted to with our most important civic system that we have, our elections. Why did we allow that? Did we allow that because of a pandemic, or did we allow that for more onerous reasons? Did we allow that because we wanted to cheat? And I don't mean we, but there's definitely pockets of people out there who thought, if we can just open up the floodgates and allow anything to come through, we have a better chance than we would if we don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it came down to. And I think there are plenty of people out there who followed that paradigm 100%. I do think there's more pernicious examples in states like Michigan, like in Antrim County, where they specifically had voting machines that allowed the votes to come up as questionable, and they allowed an individual
to decide.
I always forget the term.
I know you always forget that word, and I can never remember it for you.
Adjudicator. An individual adjudicator with no oversight to decide who that vote went to. That kind of stuff cannot happen again. So you folks out there wondering, exactly, you got it. You folks out there wondering what the why is, you got it.
Jesus is the answer.
Absolutely.
If you got him, you can find rest, my friends. I'm not kidding you. With as much madness as spinning around in this world, Jesus will give you peace that passes all understanding. You're like, how can I be this peaceful when I'm on this roller coaster ride and all these waves are hitting me? It don't matter. You got Jesus. It's all good.
Relax, simmer down.
I love that.
Don't get me up on this pedestal here. I'll be talking about Jesus and I go on for hours.
People need to stop. I saw Blake's live earlier. Trump ain't coming back. He's not saving the day.
They went crazy on our Telegram today, Sunny. You should have seen it. They were like, we were going to buy merch from you, and now we're not going to anymore because
you said something I don't like. Oh, my God.
Listen, facts don't care about your feelings, y'all. All we ever promised was that we were going to bring you the truest information that we could. The most factual information, not mainstream media, factual information. And facts do not care about your feelings. Sometimes it's going to hurt. Most of the time it's going to hurt because the news just isn't good. I don't know how to help you.
It's not.
Like,
our news talks about critical race theory. Like,
yes.
This is my question. How is any of this benefiting a Black person? You claim to be helping this demographic, but we've been voting about 57 years, 58 years for the same party, and we're still in the same situation that we were in 1964. Yep. Like, okay, half of our population, you're still in the same perpetuating cycle. So please.
You literally cannot keep doing the same thing and expecting different results.
But we do, and I don't understand why we do. Erie, Pennsylvania, Baltimore, Maryland. How can you possibly argue that Republicans are the cause for the blight that you see in those cities when there hasn't been a Republican in power in those cities in decades?
Thank you.
I mean, there is no way you can logically put that together. You can't say, well, if the federal government would give us more money, we'd be great, but we couldn't get more money because we had Reagan in the 80s. Oh, give me a break. That is the biggest pile of nonsense I've ever heard in my life. And the thing is, the left knows it, but they can't say it because they lose their permanent underclass. And maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know what causes a group of people to be so monolithic. I've never figured it out. You get Christians, even people who call themselves born-again evangelical Christians will vote 80% Republican, 20% Democrat.
Yeah.
You'll never see those numbers. We've never seen those numbers in the Black community since the 60s.
Yep.
I mean, the minute they turned to the Democrat Party, it's been with Johnson. It's been Democrat Party ever since, down the line 100%.
You know 90%,
what? But you know what I'm saying.
I have an unpopular, I'm not even going to call it opinion. I'm going to call it a truth.
Come on, girl.
Martin Luther King was great. He's iconic. I love him and what he stood for. But when you get down to like the broad view of things, he's a communist. There's no way that an intelligent man who has conservative values would ever align with the Democrat Party. He's well versed in what parties and what groups and organizations actually tormented the Black community. It's never been a Republican. Never. Any tragedy that you see has a white liberal at the head of it. So you can't tell me you're going to align with the Communist Party. And Manning Johnson wrote this book, Color, Communism, and Common Sense. They have infiltrated the churches, civil rights era, the schools. They have infiltrated it. I love Martin Luther King. I will be forever grateful for what he did, but he was a communist. Go fact check me.
I know better than to fact check you, Sunni.
Sunni is the fact check, okay?
That's
He's
right.
A communist, man. Even some of his ideals and what he wanted for the Black community, it's communist agenda.
Yeah.
I would rather people follow Malcolm X and his teachings than I would refer them to Martin Luther King for any type of lifestyle adjustments or just outlooks on life, because he's closer to a Black conservative than anybody we've seen that's a Black leader. I won't say that. You got Frederick Douglass, Hiram Revels, the first Black elected Republicans. You have those people, but the popular leaders that we know, they're freaking communists, man.
Mhm.
They're communists.
The thing is, there's folks out there right now. Clarence Thomas should be enshrined in the Black community.
Yes.
There is nobody. I've got his book sitting right over here.
Love him.
Maybe it's over there. He talked about his upbringing, and there's nothing more indicative of how someone could grow up poor as a Black American and make everything of their lives than Clarence Thomas. And you
Him and
never
Ben
hear his
Carson.
name, Ben
Mhm.
Carson. I mean, you can go down. There are plenty of people for the African American community to look to as a role model for guidance for how to break those figurative political chains. And
Mhm.
if you don't, I can't help you. I mean, there's nobody that can help you but yourself when it comes to opening your eyes and finding people who have done it
Yeah.
successfully, done it well, and emulating them. If you truly want to do better, I mean,
Facts.
But here's the thing, though. There has got to be a lot of fear in the Black community for people to step outside of what they were raised in, because just like Suni has said, her family's like, what are you doing?
yeah,
Oh yeah.
That takes a lot of bravery to step
true.
out of what you've been raised in and rise above that and go into, standing up for what you truly believe in, because they're going to be like, what are you doing?
Yo,
I can't
they're like,
imagine.
I'm whitewashed.
Right. Like your Black card got taken away. What?
They're like, girl, what that's you whitewashed? I'm like, I'm what? No, I'm not. I promise you I'm still Black.
I'm Black. What you talking about?
Oh man. Guys, I have to hop off, but I love
Yeah.
doing these talks with you. I think we should do a part 2 to it. And
We'll do it.
I'm going to bring my sister on so
Oh.
that people can see where the youth is. I think that's important, especially
Yes.
Black youth. You really need to see where they're coming from, because a lot of people write them off. They're just the youth. They're hard-headed. They don't matter. They just don't want to listen. No, they've been indoctrinated since birth. Okay.
Mhm.
And if you're growing up in a family that's not political, really don't care about it,
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, you're going to grow up and not give a crap about it. So
True.
let me know when you guys are free and we can do that, because I want to do that.
That's me. That's my story.
Thank you, Suni.
I love you
Bye,
guys. We'll see
Suni.
you.
Take
Love
care.
you. So, how crazy was it? Let's talk just a smidge before we hop off here. Let's talk a little bit about our experience this weekend when we were out holding flags.
Mhm.
I mean, we got some crazy death glares, some evil eyes. Like, when did holding an American flag, especially on Memorial Day, become something so terrible?
Well, didn't we? So we had. I'm just going to tell you, 90%, like maybe more than that, but certainly of the people who responded, more than 90% were overly positive.
Yes,
Honks,
like
waves,
Yes,
thumbs
yes.
up. And so first of all, we live in Western Ohio.
Mm.
And I've lived in different places in the country, and I can tell you there's very few places more conservative than Western Ohio. So we have to throw that out there.
that's
But
true.
the responses were very, very positive. Lots of people would yell out their window, love what you're doing. We had a woman ask, what are we doing it for? And we said, Memorial Day. And she, okay, I got you. Okay. We had one guy drove by twice with his souped up, coupe
Yes.
and did a little exhibition of speed. He was
Yes.
he was sitting alone in his car wearing a mask. So I can only assume he was a Democrat. But he other than him, there weren't any people really that said or did much negatively. So that was good. I shudder to think what it would be like if we did that in Lawrence, Kansas, or
Or New York.
Columbus, Ohio, or New York, or San Francisco, or somewhere like that. But I don't care. That's the kind of stuff that needs to happen. My boys, we're going to see it. They're going to do it. We're going to do it every year. We're going to do it as much as we possibly can, because the whole reason that we're able to do anything like that is for those folks who, at some point in our government's history, in our country's history, they gave their lives so that we could
Amen.
continue to live the way that we live.
Amen.
Maybe not every war was just, but every single soldier that fought in it was doing their duty. And
Yes.
we give our absolute respect and honor to each one of those service members that gave their lives over the years in the wars. It's more than 1 million people that have died serving this country. And I know we wouldn't be who we are today without them. So
Amen.
I don't care if they all jeered at us. We were going to stand there and do it because somebody
I was
needs
still
to.
proud.
It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. And I got also tell all of you, I didn't want to go. I'm just going to tell you. I am a very patriotic person, but I was like, you know what? It's Memorial Day. It's my day off. I just want to sit here and chill. And my wife said, nope, get your big old butt up and let's go.
Yes,
and I did. I do what my wife tells me. We did. And I can't even believe I ever thought for a second of not doing it, because it was so wonderful. And we'll do it from now on every year. Rain, shine, sleet, who knows, depending on where we live, it could be snowing. We'll be there.
It was awesome. It really was. It was definitely eye-opening for the older boys, because they were kind of like, no, I don't really want to go anywhere. I don't really want to do anything. Kind of like their dad.
Yep.
And I said, listen, I'm not going to keep you out there all day, but I think it's important. Okay. And
Yep.
So when we got there, people started honking and waving and revving their car engines and giving us the I love yous and the peace signs. And they were like, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is really awesome. And we explained the reason behind it. We didn't just say, we're going to go hold flags. We said, this is what Memorial Day represents. And it's very important for us to show our respect.
And what I loved was that it gave me a renewed reminder of how people really feel about Old Glory.
Yes.
You and I listen to patriotic songs all the time. We get, broken up about it, because every time I hear one of those songs, or I see the flag, or I hear the anthem, my mind goes right to those families who have a soldier come to their front door and say, your son, your brother, your husband is not coming home.
Yeah.
And, I want my kids to have that kind of reverence. I want them to know that this country's freedom is not free. So if you're out there watching and you've had a family member that's died in service of this country, thank you. From the bottom of the Thompson family's hearts, thank you very much.
You have no idea. We'd probably both start crying on here if we stayed on the screen any longer. You have no idea. We love you. We love you.
There's Mark. Hey, Mark, how are you?
We love you, Mark. So glad we
right.
got to meet you.
That's right.
Oh, the little boys wanted to go. They were rip-roaring, ready to go. They knew they were going to be holding their little flags. They were waving them. Oh, they were ready. They were ready. Listen, the last thing I want to say before I hit this outro button is, if you need some hope, I want you to turn your Bible. You don't even have to own a Bible. There's a Bible app on your phone. Turn it to Psalm 91 and read it. Okay? Pray Psalm 91 over yourself. Pray Psalm 91 over your family. I pray it every night over all of my family, and most of them are 600 miles away. From the top of their rooftop to underneath their house, I pray Psalm 91 over each and every one of them. That will give you so much hope and peace that you will not even understand. I'm telling you, if I have a hard time going to sleep at night, that's what I do. I pray Psalm 91 over us and over our family and over all of you, because we love you all. And Jesus is truly the answer. There's no other answer. He is the one, the way, the truth, the life. He is the one and only. What?
Pam says she has a cousin that never made it home. She wore his POW bracelet for years. God bless your cousin, Pam, and your family. Yeah, it's tough.
No, I'm gonna cry.
my absolute best friend, Cameron Smith, I'm talking to you, brother. He missed my first wedding back in 2003 because he was in Iraq, serving our country. I didn't know if he'd make it home. Thank God he did. But you know, I I know the sacrifices that so many of them have made are more than I'm probably ever going to be asked to make. And
Yes.
all we can say is thank you very much. And we pray Psalm 91 over all of our soldiers that are out there right now, overseas, Sunni's husband, everybody, whether you're fighting anybody actively or not, you're over there, you're in a ready, active state, ready to defend this country. And we thank you. And we pray Psalm 91 over you too.
Trust me when I say that you are noticed and you are loved and you are appreciated. And that goes for police officers, firefighters, first responders, all of you.
Yes.
All of you in any line of duty anywhere that wears a uniform that has to lace up their boots every day and go put their life on the line for other people. We need you. We respect you. We appreciate you, each and every one of you. From the bottom of the Thompson family's heart, as Lucas would say. All right, guys, we're hopping off here, but we are going to do a part 2 because it was by Suni's request, and I don't tell Suni no, okay? She runs the show, right? We're going to do a part 2. I'll keep you guys posted when that's going to happen. We love you all. God bless you all. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It's been a great show. We'll see you guys next time.